Welcome, everybody, to another episode of B&B Hockey Talk. I'm Aaron Bloxall with my co-host, Mr. Matt Balzer. Man, free agent frenzy started with a bang on Holiday Monday here in Canada. Just about every team getting into it. Lots of trades to talk about, lots of signings to talk about. Let's get into it. Matt, who are your three big winning teams from this weekend? Why don't we start there, and then we'll get into all the things that happened.
All right. Well, the number one has to be the New York Rangers. Getting the top free agent out there, Artemi Panarin, signed a massive 7-year, $81.5 million deal. That comes out to $11.64 million a year, making him the second highest paid player behind Connor McDavid in the NHL.
Crazy money. Over $700 million handed out on Monday alone.
And the crazy thing about the Panarin contract is that out of the $81.5 million, $74.5 million is just in signing bonuses. His salary over each season in the 7 years is just $1 million. So July 1st will be a really great time. But yeah, with the Rangers getting Panarin, it's sort of like getting like that John Tavares like last year for Toronto. They got a lot of young pieces getting Capo Caco in the draft, and then Vitaly Kravtsov, their other former first-round pick that should be in the NHL this year. I'm liking a lot of the pieces. I think they still need to make a couple more moves on their defense, but I'm really liking what they're doing. My second winner will be the Florida Panthers. They got Sergei Bobrovsky to a massive 7-year, $70 million deal and a $10 million cap hit. And then they also signed Anton Strawman, Brett Connolly, and Noel Acciari as well. Connolly, that's brings a Stanley Cup winning experience. And then Anton Strawman gives a good boost to their back end where Florida, they could score a lot of goals, but they were giving up a lot. So bringing in Bobrovsky will be massive, and then their defense is starting to shape up pretty good. And then my third team. Oh man, I think on the third team. The Dallas Stars. Okay, yeah, I was just trying to figure out the Dallas Stars. They signed Joe Pavelski to a 3-year deal, Corey Perry to a 1-year deal, and Andrej Sekera to a 1-year deal. So I think Dallas, they really needed some more secondary scoring, and bringing in Pavelski and then hopefully a bounce back year from Corey Perry, that really helps. And then Sekera really helps solidify their back end with like Klingberg, Heiskanen, and Lindell already there. So I really like those three teams.
My three teams, almost similar to yours. Mine is New York Rangers, number one. I'm going to go the New Jersey Devils, number two. Most of their stuff was done prior to free agency, drafting Jack Hughes, trading for PK Subban, and, of course, their free agent signing of Wayne Simmons, I thought was really great value and a good, solid player that they can add to that mix. Dallas Stars are my third. I'm scared to see, only because Ben's a left winger, Perry's a right winger, and they have played together before on the national level with Team Canada. So it'll be really interesting to see if Perry ends up on the top line with Ben and Sagan. And, of course, Pavelski is going to add tons of depth because he's like the Swiss Army knife of the NHL, where he can play kind of all over the place. So lots of other teams have done some great things too. Let's start off with the Toronto Maple Leafs pulling off a couple of big trades.
Yeah, so the big one, they sent Nazem Kadri, Cale Rosen, and a 2020 third-round pick to the Colorado Avalanche for Tyson Barrie, Alex Kerfoot, and a 2026 round pick. Colorado retains 50% of Tyson Barrie's contract. So his cap hit will be $2.75 million, while Kerfoot is an RFA. And the other big trade was with the Ottawa Senators, where Toronto sent Nikita Zaitsev, Connor Brown, and Michael Carcone to Ottawa for Cody Ceci, Ben Harper, Aaron Luchuk, and a 2020 third-round pick that belongs to Columbus. So Getting Tyson Barrie, that's exactly what Toronto's been looking for, is that big right-hand shot defenseman. Having Morgan Riley and Tyson Barrie on the same team, I'll take that all day of the week.
They definitely improved with those two trades. Two right-handed defensemen, both Barrie and CC. I think also maybe an underviewed piece of that trade was Alex Kerfoot. Whitlam's very own from BC here. That guy can play all three forward positions. And he has still, I think he still has room to grow in his game, and could be somebody that might unexpectedly take over on the second line of Toronto with Connor Brown now out of there.
Yeah, we'll see. Toronto does have a lot of guys ahead of him, so I have him sliding in as that third line center. But yeah, he put up 42 points last year in his second year in the NHL. He had a bit of a sophomore slump from his first year in the NHL, but those are great numbers if he can put up between 40 to 50 points a year. And then, of course, getting back to Tyson Barrie, the big thing is that he only has 1 year left on his contract. So Toronto's going all in. And actually, the thing that I saw brought up is that Morgan Riley is the only guy that has more than 1 year left on his contract on their back end. So there's going to be some big moves because Jake Muzzin, of course, only has 1 year.
Colorado picks up Kadri. They signed Burakovsky, and they signed Donskoy out of San Jose, adding an instant second line there. How big of a role do you think, like how much of a difference do you think Kadri is going to bring there? Because we already know about their incredibly young defense. Even with Barrie gone, they have a stacked defense, and I'm really liking what this team's doing right now.
Yeah, so but Burakovsky still has to be signed to a contract, though they have his rights. But Kadri, if he can get back to that 30-goal form, especially, he's going to get a lot more ice time as a second-line center. And Donskoy and Burakovsky, there's also a little bit of a risk-reward to both of those players because they have a lot of potential just because both of those guys have been minimized with their former teams. But I really like that. And then having like JT Compher, and then they brought in, re-signed Colin Wilson on a 1-year deal. And then, of course, their defense, bringing in Cale Makar as a full-timer. That basically replaces, or should replace, Tyson Barrie's production. And then Bowen Byram, not sure if he's going to make the team out of training camp in preseason. But, man, Colorado is going to be really fun to watch for many years to come. And it's nice when you have so many young prospects coming up in the system and you're able to work the salary cap the way that they have. So I was really happy.
They were this close to signing Panarin as well.
Yeah.
Ottawa Senators, by the way, they pick up Zaitsev and Connor Brown from the Leafs. They also signed Ron Hainsey and Tyler Ennis from the Leafs. So the Ottawa Maple Leafs are the rebuild there is in – I'm calling them the Ottawa Maple Leafs on purpose just in case somebody caught that. But the rebuild there is still in full swing, but they add some veterans to that lineup. Is that good or bad for potentially developing some of their younger players there?
Yeah, I think that's really good because I think I caught part of Pierre Dorian's interview on TSN during the free agent frenzy, and I think he was really big that like these players want to be in Ottawa and bringing in leadership and changing the culture of their room, because it's like, well, when you're losing all the time, that doesn't help. And then bringing in some veterans to help out with, because they gave up a lot of goals last year, and their big thing is changing all their defensive play. And then, of course, their new head coach was an assistant coach. DJ Smith was with the Toronto Maple Leafs last year. So there's even offensive stuff. So, yeah, they're just bringing in a lot of Leafs. And talk about a former Ottawa Center, the Toronto Maple Leafs signed Jason Spezza to a 1-year $700K deal. So a lot of former Sens and Leafs going across the board there.
It makes the Battle of Ontario interesting, that's for sure. Another trade in the NHL saw Pittsburgh shipping Phil Kessel to be with his old coach Rick Tocchet in Arizona. I'll let you fill in the pieces there, but what do you think about what Pittsburgh's trying to do, and is Arizona going to be a contender anytime soon?
Yeah. So the trade itself was Phil Kessel Dane Burks, and a 2021 fourth-round pick to Arizona for Alex Galchenyuk and Pierre-Olivier Joseph. Joseph was a first-rounder a few years ago by Arizona. Getting Phil Kessel. So as much as you talk about his defensive play, offensively, this is a guy that Arizona hasn't had this type of player in a long, long time. And I'd love to see him and Clayton Keller on the same line together next season. And especially Kessel, between his relationship with Rick Tocchet, their head coach, he was an assistant coach with Pittsburgh for a few years there. So if he can buy into what Tocchet's doing, because with Kessel, you sort of got to be careful with how you handle him, sort of thing. So if they're able to do that, and the big thing with Kessel, he's a point-a-game guy, and he hasn't missed a game and I think like 9 straight seasons. So as much as you can rag on him about his defensive play and stuff like that, the guy's consistent offensively and being able to play in every game. So, but yeah, I really like that. And then with Pittsburgh, again, Galchenyuk, it's nice with them because Galchenyuk only has 1 year left on his contract. So that frees up some more cap space if he doesn't work out. And then they signed Brandon Tanev to a 6-year deal. Had a $3.5 million cap, which I found weird. It's just like last year, like Rutherford, he signed Jack Johnson to a 5-year deal where I don't think anybody was going to give Johnson 5 years, and then this year it was Tanev. So they got a little wiggle room in cap space, but yeah,
I heard Pittsburgh's looking at potentially freeing up some more cap space too. But I'm curious to see how Galchenyuk, if he can revitalize his career a little bit, because it hasn't been going as well for him since Montreal traded him for Max Domi. But I'll be curious to see what he could do playing with either Crosby or Malkin potentially in that Pittsburgh lineup.
Yeah, because I think he'll slot in right in with Evgeny Malkin. Because I think Jake Gensel I think will be the big one with Crosby. They got really good chemistry. But yeah, it's just one of like those moves, because I think like with Toronto, like we say, like a lot of their guys are like on 1-year contracts or whatever, so that really helps them with cap space moving forward. So it's not just about this year, but also looking into the future with how their team's set up.
Okay, now without talking about any more free agent signings just yet, why don't I get you to go through the remainder of the trades that happened?
All right. So a couple of Montreal made a couple of trades. They traded Andrew Shaw and a 2021 7th rounder to Chicago for 3 draft picks, a 2020 second round pick, a 2020 7th round pick, and a 2021 third round pick. Montreal now has 12 draft picks going into next year's draft, which they are actually hosting next year. And they were going to try, and they did try to offer sheet Sebastian Aho to a 5-year deal.
It was a lame attempt to sign Sebastian Aho.
Yeah. So the cap hit was like I think it was like 8.4 or something along those lines. And and what they did was they front loaded in signing bonuses in the first 2 years, where Carolina would have had to pay a little over $21 million over the first 2 years. And being like a smaller market, and their owner's been known to being cheap, I think that's what they're trying to hope for. But when you do signing bonus or offer sheets, you got to really go over the top if you really want that player. I think if they went one step higher, above like $8.5 million, it would have been 2 first rounders, a second and a third. And with them having 12 draft picks for next year, I think they could have afforded that. And they got a lot of really nice prospects too, like Ryan Pelling and Nick Suzuki, just off the top of my head there. And then you got
Pelling scored a hat trick in his first ever NHL game. So
yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing what he does this year in a Habs uniform.
Yeah. So, but getting along those lines, it was just nice to see an offer sheet happen or whatever, because like it's always talk or whatever until somebody actually doesn't. But I think there hasn't been like a successful offer sheet in the salary cap era. Like it's just the one time with Dustin Penner with Edmonton. That was all the way back in like 2007, if I believe, off the top of my head. It's been a while. And then the
other trades.
Yeah, and then the other trade Montreal made was trade Nicolas Deslauriers to Anaheim for a 2020 4th round pick. And then the other trade that went down was Florida trading James Reimer to Carolina for Scott Darling and a 2026 round pick. Florida bought out the last 2 years of Scott Darling's contract, and James Reimer will be paired with Peter Mrazek next year because Carolina re-signed Mrazek to a 2-year extension.
Jimmy VC, did you touch on that trade too?
He was lost in between my other. Yeah, so the New York Rangers, before free agency started, they traded Jimmy VC to the Buffalo Sabres for a 2021 third-round pick. VC has 1 year left on his deal. And the funny thing was before he signed with the Rangers, Buffalo had went out of their way to acquire VC's rights from Nashville, but he ended up not signing there, and now it's come full circle that he's now a Buffalo Sabre.
Okay, let's do. I'm gonna do something unique here with you. We're gonna do rapid fire through all 31 NHL teams because Seattle, of course, doesn't have any yet. And basically, I'll call out a team name, and you give us their top 2 or 3 free agent signings with just year, how many years, and the term. Sorry, how many years and the salary.
All right, sounds good. There will be a few. I'll say pass if it's a team and it's only like minor league guys and they haven't added.
And you can always do just one as well.
Okay.
The very first team we're gonna do is probably just one. So
all right.
Anaheim Ducks.
All right, yeah. So their big guy that I just mentioned was Nicolas Deslauriers coming in the trade. Otherwise, they made a couple minor signings.
Rapid fire, remember? All right. Boston Bruins.
All right, Brett Ritchie, 1 times $1 million, and they extended Connor Clifton to a 3-year, $3 million deal.
Buffalo Sabres.
They acquired Colin Miller in that trade, and then of course VC, and their bigger free agent sign was Curtis Lazar, 1 times $700K.
Calgary Flames.
Cam Talbot, 1 times $2.75 million.
Chicago Blackhawks.
We got Robin Leonard, 1 times $5 million. So him and Corey Crawford will be a tandem next year.
Let's go Columbus Blue Jackets.
Their big one, Gustav Nyquist, 4 times $22 million, $5.5 million cap hit, and they re-signed Ryan Murray to a 2 years, $9.2 million deal as well.
Washington Capitals.
Oh, Washington.
I'm throwing you off your toes here.
We got Richard Panik to a 4-year, $11 million deal with a $2.75 million cap hit. Garnet Hathaway to a 4-year, $6 million deal, $1.5 million cap hit. And Brendan Leipsic to a 1-year, $700K deal.
Arizona Coyotes.
Of course, they re-signed Lawson Krause to a 3-year, $4.6 million deals. And then, of course, the other big acquisition, Phil Kessel and Carl Soderberg in trades.
Toronto Maple Leafs.
Toronto.
Them already, but
yeah. So their big one was Jason Spezza, but they also added Kenny Agostino to a 2-year, $1.4 million deal, and Kevin Gravel as a depth defenseman, also on a $700K deal.
Carolina Hurricane.
Carolina, of course, they re-signed Peter Mrazek to a 2-year, $6.25 million deal with a cap at just over $3 million, and of course matching the Sebastian Aho deal, which has his cap at $8.45 million.
Tampa Bay Lightning.
Tampa Bay, they signed Curtis McElhinney to a 2-year, $2.6 million deal. The big thing there is that they'll have to move Louis Domingue out, who had 20 wins last year as their backup goalie.
Detroit Red Wings.
They signed Patrick Nemeth Patrick Nemeth and Valtteri Filppula to matching 2-year, $6 million deals.
Florida Panthers.
Florida, of course, we touched on Sergei Bobrovsky, and then Noel Acciari's deal was at 3 years at $5 million. Anton Strawman was 3 years at $16.5 million, and Brett Connolly 4 years, $14 million over that deal.
Pittsburgh Penguins.
So the Brendan Tanev was a 6-year, $21 million deal, and their other big acquisition outside again Galchenyuk in the trade was Dominic Cahoon from Chicago in a trade.
Colorado Avalanche.
Colorado, we got Jonas Donskoy to a 4-year, $15.6 million deal. Colin Wilson was a 1 times $2.6 million deal. and Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, depth fourth line center, 2 years at $3.6 million.
Montreal Canadiens.
Montreal was Keith Kincaid on a 1 year, $1.75 million deal. He'll be the backup goalie behind Price next year.
Dallas Stars.
Dallas Stars, so of course, Joe Pavelski, 3 times $21 million, $7 million cap hit. Perry is 1 times 1.5, but in signing bonuses, you can make up to $3.25 million. And Andre Sekera, 1 times $1.5 million, but he can make up to $2 million.
Philadelphia Flyers.
Philadelphia, a lot of their stuff was before free agency. So, of course, they signed Kevin Hayes to that 7-year deal. And then they also picked up in trades Justin Braun, Tyler Pitlick, and Matt Niskanen in trades.
Edmonton Oilers.
Edmonton, they signed Mike Smith to a 1 year, $2 million deal, but he has the potential to make up to $3.75 million. They signed Marcus Granlund to a 1 year deal times $1.3 million, and Alex Chason to a 2 year, $4.3 million deal at $2.15 million cap hit.
New Jersey Devils.
Outside of picking up PK Subban in a trade, they signed Wayne Simmons to a 1 year, $5 million deal.
LA Kings.
LA Kings, just a couple of minor signs. They signed Joakim Ryan and Martin Frk to 1 year deals.
Winnipeg Jets.
Their big one was that they re-signed Nathan Beaulieu to a 1 year, $1 million deal.
New York Islanders.
New York Islanders, they re-signed Anders Lee to a 7-year, $49 million deal, $7 million cap hit, and then they signed Semyon Varlamov to a 4-year, $20 million deal with a $5 million cap hit.
Vegas Golden Knights.
Vegas, a couple of minor re-signings. They re-signed Thomas Nosek to a 1 year, $1 million deal, and Brandon Peary to a 2-year deal with a $775K cap hit.
New York Rangers.
Of course, we touched on the Panarin signing, but they did acquire Jacob Trouba in a trade earlier, and he still needs a new deal as well this offseason.
Minnesota Wild.
Minnesota made a couple interesting signings. They signed Matt Zuccarello to a 5-year, $30 million deal, and Ryan Hartman to a 2-year, $3.8 million deal. As they only sign guys over 30 apparently.
The Ottawa Senators.
Ottawa, of course, we touched on Ron Hainsey, signed a 1 year, $3.5 million deal. Tyler Ennis to a 1 year, $800K million deal. And, of course, they picked up Zaitsev and Brown in trades.
St. Louis Blues, defending Stanley Cup champions.
All right, so they've been pretty quiet. They re-signed Sammy Blais to a 1 year, $850K deal. And Derek Pouliot signed a 1 year, $700K deal. Good luck with Pouliot if he ever does play games.
Nashville Predators.
The last of the big name signings, they signed Matt Duchene to a massive 7-year, $56 million deal, coming in at an $8 million cap hit.
San Jose Sharks.
San Jose, they signed Timo Meier to a 4-year, $24 million deal, coming in at $6 million.
Lost a lot of players, too, because of that Erik Karlsson cap hit.
Mm-hmm.
And last but not least, I believe, the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah, so the Vancouver Canucks, they signed Tyler Myers to a 5-year, $30 million deal at a $6 million cap hit. They signed Jordy Ben to a 2-year, $4 million deal with a $2 million cap hit. And Oscar Fontenberg to a 1 year, $850K deal. And they also re-signed Tyler Mott to a 1 year, $975K deal.
Woo! That's our rapid fire on all those free agents. Obviously, lots has changed in the last 48 hours since free agency opened. We did this last year, and if I remember correctly, I picked the St. Louis Blues. But who's your early Stanley Cup favorite?
Oh, boy. Off the top of my head.
I think you picked Tampa last year, and I think I said St. Louis was my wild card because they had picked up Bozak, Maroon, and had just traded for Ryan O'Reilly on draft day, and I just and they were absolute garbage until January, and then they turned their season around and made it happen, which I love because that means any team that struggles for the first 2, 3, 4 months of the year if they can hang around and turn their season around, they have a shot at winning the Stanley Cup. But who would be your early favorite for the Cup?
Oh boy, it's hard not to go with Tampa again, just because their roster is so good. I might have to go with Tampa Bay, and then as my other two, I still like Washington. Again, I really like what they've done. And in the West, I still really like Vegas.
Okay, I'll let you pick one of the East and the West.
Okay, yeah. So if I had to go, East would be Tampa Bay, and if I'm gonna go in the Western Conference, I still really like the Vegas Golden Knights and what they're doing. Just some bad luck in that Game 7, and they could have been a whole different playoffs for them.
Absolutely. I'm gonna go if I gave you two, I'm gonna take two as well. I'm gonna have to go. I'm going to go with the Washington Capitals in the East. I think Alex Ovechkin's probably pissed off that somebody took the Stanley Cup away from him. And I really like some of the grit that they've signed there in their third and fourth lines. And I think if they're healthy, they had a short playoffs this year. And, again, that was, I think, also just some bad luck. They lost a couple games in overtime to Carolina. And I'm going to go with Washington. I don't want to go with St. Louis this time. Nashville's kind of right there, but I think I'm going to go with the Dallas Stars if they get a healthy Ben Bishop for the whole season. I really like what they've done, adding the veterans up front on their roster. And they gave St. Louis a hell of a time going to 7 in overtime on their way to potential Stanley Cup glory this year. So I'm going to go Dallas, and we're going to go Washington.
Yeah, and just one other team, because I hate to say it, but you got to say the Toronto Maple Leafs as well. Yeah,
Toronto, Colorado, I think, are right there as well.
But yeah, it's sort of crazy, because it's really tough to see which teams that missed the playoffs this year are actually going to replace some of the teams, because in the West, like all 8 teams that made the playoffs this year, it's like you look like it's going to be tough for any of those teams to be replaced. And then in the East, like you could see Columbus falling out. And maybe potentially Carolina, but it looks like it's going to be like a lot of the same teams. Like I think Florida could be a dark horse.
I think Florida could definitely take out Carolina in the East as far as a playoff spot. And Buffalo, if Buffalo can find a way to regain their form of 10 in a row, I just don't see it though. But they started off so strong last year and ended the worst record in hockey the last 3 months of the year, whereas St. Louis started off the worst and ended up being the best in the last 3 months. So anything can happen, right? That's what I love about hockey. So final word to you, Matt, before we end today's show.
So outside of like the on July 1st, it's been pretty quiet over these past 2 days. Some of the big UFAs that are still out there. My top 5 are Ryan Dzingel, Michael Furland, Jake Gardner, Marcus Johansson, and Patrick Maroon. There's some other big names, but like they're like Thornton Williams and Marlowe. But a lot of those guys we know, it's like they're gonna most likely, if they do re-sign, it'll be or sign, it'll be with their teams that they played with.
And as a Canucks fan, I don't think we should be surprised. I mean, we could be surprised that Ben Hutton's still available. But if Jim Benning really tried to ship him away for a draft pick or some sort of trade and wasn't able to do so, it just shows what kind of market there was for Ben Hutton. But I'll be curious to see what they do with him.
Yeah, and then of course, like as all the restricted free agents start to get signed over the summer, then teams will start to look at all the remaining unrestricted free agents as we move along the summer.
Yeah, the dominoes will start falling into place. So, if you want to be our monthly sponsor, just give us a message. Let us know what your business is, and we can maybe work out a deal. We have an opening this month for July. We're always looking for sponsors, and we could potentially, not only help your business, but help support the show. Again, we thank you to all our awesome listeners for tuning in. Give our YouTube page a like. We really want to start building the likes up over on YouTube, but of course, Facebook is where we post all the highlights. And we're going to be narrowing the show down through the dog days of summer here to just our on Wednesdays due to, obviously, the lack of activity. And then as we get closer to training camp, we'll ramp it back up and start giving more content. So, I mean, hey, summer's a time for nice weather, great trips. You know, people are taking vacation. But of course, we don't want to lose touch with you guys. So once a week, we'll be giving kind of like a weekly update with everything that's going on. And you want one more word?
No, I think that's what I was going to bring up, just in case if you forgot. But yeah, I think over the summer, I think I might just I'll try doing like some depth charts or for each team, because I know last summer we did like a preview for each team, but that was when we were doing 5 days a week over the summer. So, but
we're still going to do depth charts. I think Matt and I will probably post our different depth charts for each team at a time, and we may, as we get into August and stuff, start posting our top 10 positional list again, and create lots of talk around that, of course. So
will Carey Price get back on the top 10?
Yeah. So thanks for watching, guys. Have an excellent day, and we'll see you guys next Wednesday.